Hi, I'm Robert Song. I teach at the Department of Theology and Religion in Durham University. I'm aware that teaching in a university context does make a difference to teaching in a theological college context. And I think one of the big differences is that many of our students aren't Christian. They don't identify with Christian faith particularly. And so I do think that makes a difference to the way I teach. And when we come to thinking about the environmental crisis, there's no doubt it is an existential crisis. And I think for students like myself, they are themselves mirroring society more broadly with religious questions. And I think as things become tighter, we can expect those religious questions themselves to become yet more prominent. I think there's every reason to think that. You may recall the moment in the Simpsons movie when they're told the end of the world is about to happen, and all the people in the pub run into the church, and all the people in the church run into the pub. And there's a certain amount of truth in that. But I think one thing we can't take for granted is that the kinds of religion or spirituality that people will be attracted to will be the ones that many mainstream Christian denominations have been happy to embrace. And I think that does raise real hard questions for us who teach in theology departments and in theological colleges. How can we elaborate? How can we articulate an understanding, a view of the world? And I think this is a question which faces not just Christians, but faces everyone. So in that sense, I think it's an apologetic question. How can we articulate a view of the world which allows us to address the environmental crisis with honesty, with determination, without resorting to denial or despair? Now, I think that's a really big question. It's a tall order. How can we think that through and think that through with people, as I do with my students at some length? I think is a really, really important question. And I think we're only going to be able to address that with integrity as Christians, as theological educators, if we ourselves know what is involved, the grief, the lament, and the perhaps radical new forms of hope that may take forms different from any of us, from anything any of us have experienced so far. I think it's potentially a really exciting time for theology as we address these kinds of questions really honestly, and seeing a God who goes out before us, but whose shape we cannot yet fully determine, I think could be a really, really exciting time for us as Christian theologians and as theological educators.